All right. Good day, everyone joining us from around the world. It's a pleasure to be here again for the AOT 5.0 pre-conversation. Today is going to be another amazing, insightful session with our two guest speakers. We have joining us. I'm going to leave that for my co-host is going to introduce the justice and introducing our guest speakers for today. Yes, we're still on the creative economy and digital Lagos, which is the theme for this year's AOT 5.0, one of the biggest tech program. And we've been coming to you live from the stables of Eco Innovation. We've been bringing you master classes. We started, I think, 4 weeks ago, and we're still on, leading to the due day, which is the 7th and the 8th of December 2023. So if you're joining in, today, don't be the only one joining us in this conversation. Do reach out to your friends, share the links to your contacts so that they can be part of today's conversation. Today, we're going to be talking about digital inclusivity and how community-based initiatives are redefining the creative landscape, keeping in focus Lagos, Nigeria, of course. So I'm going to be passing the baton to my co-host, the one and only Mr. Oluwatosin. Mr. Tosin, so nice to be on set with you today.
All right. Good evening, everyone. From everywhere you are joining us from across the globe. It's so nice to have everybody online this evening. And thank you so much, Antonia, for that wonderful session. Thank you for that introduction. So before we start, I want to say a very big thank you to our host, our guest this evening, which are the panelists, the person of Miss Irene David, and also Mr. Femi Johnson. So we are so glad to have you online this evening. We are so glad. This is a conversation that we have started since 4 weeks ago, and this is a build up to our Heart of Technology 5.0 conference, which the theme, just like Anthony has shared, is the creative economy and a digital Lagos. So we have seen that the creative economy is one of the booming industry. And so we are looking at how everybody can come together to see how we can all harness, to see what we can do together, strategy that can be put in place to see how we can actually maximize this industry. And so very quickly, just like our topic says this evening, digital inclusivity. So it's just about inclusion. And we'll be looking majorly on the topics, how community-based initiatives are redefining the creative landscape, because we understand that there is a step-by-step to a very big and robust solution out there, and it has to start from the community. So when you have the community, you go and you can actually grow from there to a very larger landscape. And so very quickly, I will want to share the bio of Miss Irene David, and I'll just say a little about her and also a little about Mr. Femi Johnson. So for Mrs. Irene, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Mr.
Yes, I can hear you.
David Arinze is a multimedia journalist. She's also a public speaker and an advocate for climate finance into Africa. Irene is also the founder of Leader Network, which is an initiative focused on leveraging the power of journalistic storytelling, wow, and financial media literacy as tools to promote sustainable business, accountability, and provide quality information that will help citizens make informed decisions. Irene pioneered the first digital series called Circular Economy, which focuses on telling the stories of youth-led sustainable businesses who leverage eco-friendly approaches while maintaining their profitability. She has appeared on various media platforms such as BBC, Ireland's Independence newspaper, Kenya Television Network, Channels TV, Arise TV, TVC, Guardian, among other notable platforms. She recently received an award from the recently concluded Young African Leaders Initiative National Summit for our laudable contributions in youth empowerment. She's a graduate of Covenant University and an alumni of Harvard Business School Online. She was nominated for the Gatefield Journalism Award and PwC Journalist of the Year. So that's a very, very, very robust one. And I do not take this for granted. Honestly, I do not take it for granted. And so I'm going to pass the baton up to Antonia, because one thing we have been doing aside from digital inclusivity is the fact that we are also trying to balance the gender. There is a gender balance. You will see that we have a female and a male as our panelists. We also have a male and a female as a moderator for this evening. So Antonia, over to you to introduce Mr. Femi. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Tosin. So I'm going to be giving a brief introduction of our guest, Mr. Femi Johnson. Mr. Femi Johnson is the CEO of South-In PBO, and Mr. Femi Johnson is also a sought-after outsourcing specialist with professional record in digital marketing consulting, remote work coaching, in-house staff training, and startups growth outsourcing. Mr. Johnson has several years in freelancing. His digital marketing profession services have been well pronounced in healthcare, financial, e-commerce, real estate, education, capacity building, and hospitality subsections. You can see Mr. Johnson wears a lot of hats. Mr. Femi is also the founding managing director and CEO of Bridgecom Outsourcing Limited, like I earlier stated, managing partner of Nigeria Digital, training consulting of PBO Academy of Nigeria, and also the digital marketing consultant to Linkage Assurance PLC, to mention but a few. Beyond the shores of Nigeria, Femi has helped organizations develop and implement digital marketing strategies and champions with excellent results in Nigeria, South Africa, Malaysia, Australia, and Vietnam. Beneficiary of the World Bank's PBO Skills Development in Africa 2011. He is the pioneer of the African's fast-growing remote workers ecosystem. The URL would post on the group chat. Mr. Femi Johnson is a member of the Association of Outsourcing Practitioners of Nigerian, certified member of the PBO Certification Institute, and he holds a bachelor's honors in history and strategic studies from the University of Lagos, Nigeria. Over to you, Mr. Tosin.
Those are gigantic, let me say gigantic profiles I'm reading this evening, and I'm so happy and glad. And so very quickly, because we won't be exceeding the time, which is 6 p.m., I want us just to go into a short brief of what today's topic has to look at. And majorly, when we say digital inclusivity, we talk about how community-based initiatives are redefining the creative landscape. So it has been estimated that the creative industry is one of those industries that is going to be a highs, like an eagle that people will look up to in the coming years because of what is going on from there. And we have actually seen that even from Africa, a lot of things are happening, even from our nation, Nigeria. The last session of the Ballon d'Or, it was one of the Nigerian musicians that was there to actually present, which means that a lot of things are happening. There is a lot, even in the Nollywood industry, and we have seen over the years, there are a lot of community-based initiatives that are also thriving out there. One notable example is one of that of the Ikorodu boys. How we saw how they moved from a community, how their initiative was able to actually help them, how they were able to maximize their potential and actually harness the power of digital tools. And that is what we're talking about this evening. And so very quickly, I'll be giving the floor to Aaron Davey to actually share in just 3 minutes, just a general overview of what you want to share on your insight around how community-based initiative can actually make that global standing. And after that, I'll give the floor to Femi. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tosin. Thank you, Antonia. Thank you to the entire team for having me today. It's such an honor. And the team at Leader Network is also saying hello to everyone. So yes, in terms of digital inclusivity, one thing I liked the example you gave about the Kurodu boys and how, it has literally just changed, the mindsets of people and how people really accept. One thing we fail to realize is, particularly for those people who maybe they don't travel so much, when you travel, to be honest, after you have explored the very luxurious things, you also want to experience the street life of whatever country you have visited. So to be honest, sometimes before I even embark on any trip, I actually go on YouTube to look for content. When I look for, oh, where are the posh places I can visit? I then look for, oh, where are the rugged, really rugged places I can visit that will give me a feel. And I would say that that is what the Ikorodu boys pretty much have done. And because some people, wherever they are around the globe, cannot readily access these kinds of creativity, these kinds of initiatives, this kind of lifestyle, they may not be able to embed themselves physically, but they want content that can promote it. And then you see some people saying, oh, they want to donate to this cause, they want to see more of this. How can we support these people? And I'll give an example of what Leader Network did. So a while ago, there's an e-recycling company in Nigeria, in Lagos, Itera there. Yeah, Itera. So we actually went to visit them because, I mean, we are very big on climate finance. If you want climate finance, some of the investors will say your business must be sustainable. And so one thing we decided to do, when we saw that there was a big rise in the number of businesses, small business, this is not even a small business, but businesses that are taking into consideration how sustainable they are both in their practices and in their product, we decided, you know what, these people are great for us. And so we told that story. These are people that are helping crush say hard drives and very sensitive information of high-end institutions, big four institutions that have subsidiary here in Nigeria. But that's not just it. Some of their laptops they refurbish and then they look for how to, help people who do not have. And so we published this. It was a documentary you can always find on our website there on Leader Network, But one thing we then found was an NGO that supports they were going into ICT centers. They were going to build ICT centers for prison houses, specifically Kirikiri this time around. They reached out to us to say, Irene, thank you for the work Leader Network is doing and all of that. We really need laptops and we don't know where to get them from. Now, if we had not put that kind of content out there, they would have not known that this kind of business exists. Then the business, for them, they are just doing their thing, as far as they are being sustainable. If they come to ask them for their ESG practice records, they have very good records. But we as a media organization, we have taken it upon ourselves to be that bridge between the people that are that are providing these services and those that may need it, but they may not have the monies or the means to, get these functionalities. Now they were able to support with quite a number of laptops and desktops for that prison house. And I said to myself, this may not be extremely directly related, but look at these people doing their ESG practices. Now is leading to some guys in the prison that might have that may be feeling like, oh, there's nothing left for them in life. They now have the ability to learn digital skills. Because remember, there's also a statistic that says that about 80% of prisoners, when they leave the prison, they have the likelihood of returning back to the prison. Why? Because they don't have any skill sets. What took them to the prison? You are taking them out. They've not been upskilled in any way, shape, manner, or form. So what gives you the, the idea that they will not go back to either stealing or whatever brought them to prison? So now in this case, we see this digital access to digitization, helping people see what is possible, helping businesses, telling stories of businesses that are being responsible, businesses that are eco-friendly. While they're also thinking about profitability, they're also very conscious of their footprint, either their carbon footprint or their garbage footprint, whatever it is, But now they are taking care of and ensuring that prisoners somewhere, something that one would have not even thought about before. And I have a host of those kinds of stories. And that's really what drives us here at Leader Network when it comes to telling sustainable stories. That's what we do with our circular economy program that we run. I'll stop there.
That's so great. Thank you so much. It's so nice hearing about what you're doing and what has been going on and how you have actually seen an importance to what community-based initiative is and how it can actually be sustainable in the long run. Because so whatsoever you are doing and that cannot be sustainable, I'm not sure those are the solutions we are looking forward to now. And so, Femi, the floor is open to you. You want to share something? Then we go into the panel sessions completely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for having me, the team. You guys are doing an amazing job. Right, let me take it from where the first speaker stopped, right? So when we're talking about creative, I want to look at it from the angle of creating great impact with very little. You know, when you're talking about creative economy, right? You know, making great impact with very little. So she has given a couple of examples, and looking at the plan, I mean, the schedule for this event, I see that I think the moderator has already mentioned the story of the Ikorodu boys. If you look today around Nigeria, you're going to see a couple of interesting developments that are coming to the fore by the help of technology. So what this is telling us is that even though we have technology today available, bringing about transformation, the power of storytelling is on another level entirely. I mean, few days ago, I mean, immediately after I was informed of this particular program, I went online to check for a few things. And I remember a couple of weeks ago, I've been coming across this particular page on Facebook. It's called Kokora Latte. I remember the first time I saw that page, because it's actually a Yoruba page, you know, I really didn't take it serious, right? It's a very local page. I saw a few videos from that page, and they were actually communicating in vernaculars, you know, Yoruba language. And it was like, it's nothing, right? But after a few weeks, I began to see more of this content, and I took my time to follow through the story. Then I realized that this is not just about local people. This is not just about people who can speak English. These are people sharing compelling stories that can, you know, give you moral lessons, that can open your eyes to many things you never imagined possible, you know, in the world today, or maybe even in Lagos. You know, you see a lot of things, and before I knew it, I began to, you know, have interest on this particular platform and began to follow the story. So what happened is that I was won over by the compelling stories being told, even in the local language. 2 days ago, this particular page went live, and I decided to join. And when I joined, I realized that that platform was actually running with 14,000 audience on Facebook. Now, what happened? That is because even though it's a local affair, I mean, the page was created by a particular organization in Oyo State, in Ibadan, you know, and they discuss very, very local issues, right? But because they are bringing forward stories that people can relate with, especially some of us who have left, you know, our villages many years ago, moved to Lagos, traveled to UK, US, and you see people discussing issues that you can easily relate with. If you talk about the boys, for example, as well, I remember myself growing up, I participated in a lot of activities which has to do with maybe using plastics to make drums, you know, trying to play roles of Michael Jackson, you know, act movies and all of that. And now, all of those things happened about maybe over 20, 30 years ago. But now, if you do that today with the help of technology, what happens? Now you could actually become a global brand, you know, actually doing that. I also noticed another page. It's called the Justice Court, right? This is supposed to be a local court, right, where people go to discuss domestic issues, marriage, infidelity, and all of that. And I've been following that particular page as well on Facebook for some time now. And I realized I got stuck to that page. Why? Because this page, even though it's a court, you can call a local court that discusses handles issues that are very, very, small matters that are not of national, interest and all of that. But I became interested. Why? Because of the stories. So what am I talking about? I want to quickly break down what I'm talking about into what we call frugal innovation. So we're talking about inclusivity, digital inclusivity now. We're talking about everybody being able to have access to what technology can offer. And how do you do that? Being able to do that by spending possibly very less. Frugal innovation simply means being able to do so much with very little. Now, that is the example which we have in the Boys. And today, we have so many people today we call influencers, we call content creators. Why? Because they have message. They have message, they have experiences, they've been through stuff they can put into what you today call content. And so when you put into content and maybe you just have one Android phone somewhere, and of course you go live on Facebook, consistently creating content people can relate with, building ideas, people can follow up and all of that. And before you know it, these little, ideas with an Android phone could become an international brand. So for me, I think there's so much to be touched today. And I just want to say that talking about creative economy for everyone listening this evening, need to understand that creative economy is not an industry. It is actually an economic opportunity that's spread across every sector of human endeavor, because you can actually create, you can make use of, creativity, in your field. As a medical doctor today, you have medical doctors who are meant to attend to people in their hospitals now having an international social media platform where they offer, medical advice and generate content, making incomes, creating business out of the same, thing they could do in a very small office for a medical doctor, right? So you could have somebody who is a lawyer creating content, bringing forward stories, legal advices that generate interest, and before you know it, becomes a global brand. So creative economy is an economy that is open to everyone. And interesting enough, is a business world, I will call it business world in this digital era, that is open to you, either you are rich or you're poor. I think a couple of years ago, I launched an initiative then, which was starting.
So I'm trying to be conscious of the time. Femi, so sorry. I know you have a lot of things to say.
So I'm gonna have to stop here.
Lord, I know you have a lot. I'm so conscious about the time. Thank you so much. So I just want us going to into the panel session, because I know there are a lot of things that you want to say now that you will still have to cite while we go into the panel session. It's a very, very great conversation to see that you are speaking a lot around the from the grassroots, from the top to the bottom, how we can actually see digital influence on what is happening from the bottom to the top. And so I'll just give the floor to Antonia to start with a question. Antonia, so the floor is open to you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Tosin, and thank you, Irene and Femi, for that quick introduction to what you're going to be talking about. It's so interesting how you infused your personalities and what you do currently into our discussion for today. We had Irene, who spoke from the journalist perspective, and also we already know she's a public speaker and an advocate for climate finance. She spoke so much about the importance of researching. And so it was actually very interesting to see how each one of you, both Irene and Mr. Femi, brought their perspectives into today's topic, showing us that the digital economy does not have any restraints to a particular field, talking about digitalization. So I'm going to be asking my first question to Madam Irene. How do compelling narrative enhance the sustainability of youth-led eco-friendly businesses? And what role does media literacy play in fostering an environmental conscious audience? Over to you, Madam Irene. I'll also be posting the questions on the chat box so that you can always refer to them.
Okay, I'll say that's a very loaded question. Let's just say it's like 3 questions in one. Compelling narratives, how we can support youth-led eco-friendly businesses, then the media literacy, how we can also help foster environmentally conscious audience. So maybe I'll just break it into 2 parts. The first part being the compelling narratives, leading to or supporting youth-led eco-friendly businesses. I mean, I'm a journalist and what we do is storytelling, so permit me when I use a lot of stories to respond to your questions. I remember when the first time when I just moved to Abuja and, after some time, I found this youth-led business. It was, would I say, call it a business? In between business and not. But what they do is they build public toilets in schools. That's basically what they do for a living. And when I learned about it, it was quite far from where I was, but I knew that it was a story I needed to tell. Now, it wasn't just enough to go there, take pictures, say, oh, this organization has just launched or opened a public toilet for these students in, this elementary school. But for me, and that's one thing that we try not to do at Leader Network, given
Hello, are you there?
Hello. I think Madam Irene is experiencing challenge with the network. All right. So while we give her some time to connectivity, Mr. Femi, like I said earlier on, it was so interesting to see how you and Madam Irene were able to infuse your skill sets. You are the CEO of Source PBO. You're an outsourcing specialist and also founder of so many organizations. You're also into digital marketing and consulting, and no wonder you spoke so much about the importance of storytelling. So I'm going to be addressing a question to you, and whenever Madam Irene comes in, after you're done, of course, she'll continue with her session. So I'm going to be asking, how do grassroots efforts contribute to digital inclusivity in the creative economy, and what measures ensure this initiative benefits diverse community? You already gave us some of the initiative of I think from Ogun State that you gave the Yoruba telecast. So how do grassroots efforts contribute to digital inclusivity in the creative economy, and what measures ensure that this initiative benefits diverse communities? So it's not just secluded to Nigeria or Lagos, but the world all over. I'm going to be posting the question on the group chat so you can refer to it. Over to you, Mr. Femi. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for the opportunity for me to speak to you again. So, like I was saying the other time, there are so many examples out there that we can draw inspiration from. Today in Nigeria, people have been able to develop new careers. People have been able to start up new businesses. People have been able to create movements. People have been able to create platforms, and people have been able to create platforms because of the available opportunity of technology. And these opportunities are fast extending to grassroots local areas even enough. Now, I'm going to give you one more example on that angle before I come to what we actually do as an organization, right? I also noticed of reasons of a particular organization. It's a religious organization, okay, that decided to start, looking out for people who have maybe health challenge, who have issues. I saw quite a number of, cases like that of people who could actually die in silence because nobody care about them, nobody remember them. They live in their local, village and all of that. And these guys will bring them forward and start, telling their stories. How did it come to this? Most of these people were people who used to be, public figures, like acting movies and stuff. And now these guys are old and they're sick and stuff. And now you see these guys, we bring their phone and go and record them and put it on the social media. And before you know it, you see people donating millions of naira to help these people. What has happened? Now, that is the power of inclusivity in the technology because these people ordinarily could have been left to death, right, in the village, forgotten. But because of technology, they were able to be, remembered by the society. Sometimes it has a way. Even many people knew they were sick before, but because that story entered the media, look at it today. Things that people will naturally ignore, immediately it entered the media. Everybody just wake up and everybody just want to participate. And as a result of that, look at it. You have people today, because I'm an entrepreneur, so I will always look at digital inclusivity from the angle of business opportunity, right? So it's all about opportunity. Either you are creating empowerment, or you are helping people to recover from sickness, or you are creating stories that excite, that create moral lessons, or you are raising people from poverty, sensitization and all of that. It's all about business because at the end of the day, content today is monetized. Now, let me now bring it into what we do as an organization. Sourcing BPO Limited, like you have said, is an outsourcing company. And one of the things we do is that we provide platform for people who have tech skills. I mean, basic tech skills like graphic designing, like being able to write creative content articles, blogging, and all of that, to be able to access jobs online. Why did we start it? We started this platform immediately after lockdown, COVID-19 period. Now, why did I start it? I've been a digital marketer for almost 10 years. So I've developed my career in working from home, okay, earning from home. So it's a part of me. So when COVID happened, all overnight, I realized so many people I knew around me became jobless, especially teachers. So I look at teachers. Parents still want people to be able to, educate their children, attend to their puppies, and all of that. But because of that, restriction of, getting close with other people and all of that, these guys could not work. And so at that time, I remember I was making more money in the lockdown when everything was. I was actually making more money because gigs were coming from left and right. So I now said, now there are teachers in the villages. There are people who live in Kogi who are teachers, and somebody is in Abuja who need a teacher to be able to teach maybe his child or daughter across, on the internet, just using the laptop. So what did I do? We set up a platform and we say, you know what? You should be able to register here, set up the gig, what you can do, and be able to offer your services to anybody in Nigeria or outside Nigeria. So what that means is that at the end of the day, we're going to have teachers from Ekiti, from Ondo State, from the remotest part of your state, who were mathematics teachers. These are people who are brilliant, who have value to bring forward, but there was no platform. So we created a platform and said, you know what, wherever you are in the local community, you can be able to contribute value globally. And also, in that same spirit, we also introduce and say, you know what, there are people in the local places, like those kind of villages, who would like to access digital skills but can't afford it. And at the same time, we also introduced free mentorship program. And I think we had a program like a few weeks ago where one particular guy, Taiwo, was sharing his experience, how our training mentorship has impacted him. And because after the training mentorship, we actually refer him to a Texas, company to further empower him and employ him. So what I saw from that story, because when the guy was sharing the story, he was speaking from Ogun State. And I could see the excitement of him. Now, what technology has been able to do is that breaking those barriers to say that, oh, if you want to work in the US or you want to work in Canada and you live in a village, maybe Korodu, or you live in Ajibule, Lagos, you can't do it. No, you can't do that. That's why I was talking about creative economy data. I was trying to break that, that curtain that, look, it's not restricted, it's not a particular industry. It is actually a solution, is an era that cut across every aspect of human life. All right. So what I'm going to say on that finally is that today, if you look at it, you begin to see people who were not meant. For example, you go on TikTok, you see people who have become prominent, even speaking vernacular, right? Becoming successful, earnings through content, because it's all about storytelling. People never get tired of stories, because there's one thing about
All right. We seem to be having a bit of network challenges today. But very true what Mr. Femi was saying. Is very true what Mr. Femi was saying when he was answering the question about how grassroots efforts contribute to digital inclusivity. And it's so nice to see our speakers actually speaking from a personal point, bringing in what they do into today's topic, proving that they actually know their onions and they don't just speak over the head, they are practitioners of what they teach. Mr. Femi spoke about how he's providing access to infrastructure. Okay, so not to drag the program any further, we'll continue from that where Mr. Femi comes back on call. We'll go back to Madam Irene, who was answering the question on how compelling narrative enhance the sustainability of youth-led eco-friendly businesses and what roles the media what roles media literacy plays in fostering an environmental conscious audience. And if I remember vividly, you're speaking about the set of youth who were working on developing the public toilets in schools. Over to you, ma'am.
All right, thank you very much. Apologies for that glitch. So as I was saying, and one thing that we are very conscious of at Leader Network is intentionality. It's unfortunate, but some media organizations, their own is, oh, let's just tell this story. If they give us, they will give us money, we'll go. But hey, in the first instance, when you go read about the history of journalism and the likes, it was supposed to solve problems, be the voice of the voiceless. And digital inclusivity is one thing that breaks that barrier between, say, the rich and the poor, those that are in America and those that are here in Nigeria, those that are in Asia and those, it literally breaks that barrier. Right? Even on LinkedIn, for example, you try to connect with somebody. It says, oh, is it that your first connection, meaning you have direct access, or second or third connection? Second connection, you go and look for the person that's connecting you to the next person. And that is what, digital inclusivity does for you. That's what it helps you do. So it's for you to say, oh, I need to reach out to this, but what kind of conversations can we strike as a conversation starter? And before you know it, he or she is introducing you to the next person. And for us, when we're telling that story, and for every other story we tell on Leader Network, we're saying, how is it going to impact on the person we're telling the story for? Beyond Leader Network, because of course, you know that we already have our strategy. But what are the potential and possible ripple effects for the society we live in? Will somebody watch our content and say, I used to throw bottles on the floor when I finish. Now I need to be putting it in my handbag until I find a trash can. That is change. We may not be counting how our content is subconsciously changing people's behavior, but it is there. How is it also promoting that youth-led business that may not have 1 million or 2.5 million to go and publicize their work on one of the already known platforms, media platforms? So sometimes it's really exciting when we go out and they're telling us, oh my God, thank you so much for covering our initiative. These are the things that that's a ripple effect. The impact. I remember, I mean, you guys are in Nigeria, right? The story of the loan app story that we took on some time ago at Leader Network as well, where people had reached out to say, oh, can you imagine my sister and my brother paid this amount of money to these loan app people? We launched an investigation. Where did we put that investigation when it was up? We had to put it online. And that is it. See, when you talk about digital, it gives everybody, in my opinion, a level playing field. In reality, in the physical side of things, you may say, oh no, we have our class, we have our groups, but hey, have you not seen content online that you are not following the platform? Antonia or Tosin, sorry, and that is what it helps you do. It gives you the opportunity to just creep into people's lives without whether they give you permission to do that or not. So as a media organization, we try to ensure that the way we tell these stories impacts positively on the businesses that we are trying to also cover. Now, in terms of how media literacy is fostering environmentally conscious audiences, I think I also touched on that when I said the kinds of stories that we are telling. We are saying to ourselves, the people that are watching, our viewers, what are the reactions that we want them to have after this? Should it just be another content that will make them laugh, forget their sorrow for now, and move on? It will also give them ideas. If they live in a very dirty environment, our content is beginning to give them that subconscious that says, hey, you just watch this thing on Leader Network. This is how you can solve the problem in your society. So I struggle to understand when people living in Nigeria where we say, hey, there are a lot of problems, meaning we should have consistently a crop of people that are so solution oriented, and we are saying, I've started this my initiative and this is what it's supposed to do. I've started that initiative and like our initial like Femi initially said, sometimes it's about the little you have, the little within your sphere of influence. What are you able to do with it? You have a mobile phone. You go online and then you check some things that may not be relevant in long term. But the honest truth is, how can you leverage on your access to the internet, access to mobile phone, access to the problems around you within that your little community to be a voice? You can be a voice from that your local village to the global audience. That is what the Korodu boys have done. And that is what we're also doing through the circular economy series that we hold. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Irene, for your input on this topic. And what you say is true, of course. Like you said, it's not just about creating content that are entertaining. Your content must be able to leave an impact on your viewers, and because at the end of the day, we're just trying to make the world a better place. And you spoke about awareness, which would lead me back to education and bring me back to Mr. Femi. Mr. Femi, it's nice to have you back with us. You're answering our question before the network glitch. You're answering about how grassroots effort contributes to digital inclusivity. And Irene has told us that digital literacy gives a neutral ground, breaks class bias and all that, gives a neutral ground to all players. And earlier on, you spoke in answering these questions, we're giving a very personal perspective to these questions on how your company is providing access to infrastructure and to these content creators in Kogi. You also spoke about education, which is also a way of ensuring that this initiative they last, so they are sustainable. I'm going to be throwing a question to you again. Mr. Femi, how can the success of Irene just spoke about the Korodu boys. How can this success inspire communities to overcome digital divides through creativity, and what lessons can businesses learn from grassroots projects? Thank you, and welcome back.
Okay, thank you. Yes, looking at Ikorodu Boy's story is actually an inspiring story. And I've been able to draw up a few points from their story. Number one is that everybody anywhere in the world should understand that it is important for you to be able to live your truth. Now, you see, people miss out when they try to be something else. Now, Ikorodu Boys, the first thing that made them to stand out is because they live their truths. Okay, so Ikorodu is a grassroots, like a local community, and they are living that truth. Number one. Number two is that if you look at them for every of their presentations, every of their content, you can see them not working, but just having fun. Now, in life, whatsoever it is you want to do that you have committed yourself to do, you must make sure you learn to enjoy it. And that has been my story working in the digital, space as a digital marketer. I don't just work. I want to have fun working. So that's another thing I discovered about voice, which is actually applicable to anybody, anywhere, in any grassroots community, any part of the world, to be able to, I don't know if you can hear me. It's as if you're communicating with me, right? Antonia, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
All right, good. All right. So number three, point I got from their story is that we must learn how to use whatever that is available within our reach to create the great things we imagine. Right? Look at Ikorodu Boys. They're going to watch a movie that was produced with maybe $100 million, and they will use used materials, waste materials that would not even cost up to $20, and use it to replicate that movie in a way that is funny, in a way that it will be creative, in a way that it will be amazing, in a way that it will be, will be like outstanding. So now you could watch the story, you could watch the content and laugh, you could watch the content and be like, how were they able to create all of this? Because that has been my curiosity each time I watch their movies. I'm like, how were they able to? And another thing we also learn from them is that you can start anyhow. You understand? How to get to where you are going, it sort itself out. Now, if you watch their movies, their content, in the last 4 or 5 years, you realize that they kept improving. They kept getting better, which means that they started very small, and along the line, they began to perfect their skill. I began to realize that their video productions were improving. And so they were not only relying on the local materials to produce their content, also began to use a lot of softwares, to make out a better video. And finally,
Hello. Hello. So I'm not sure what's happening, but we're kind of experiencing a lot of network challenges and fluctuations today. But moving forward, because we have limited time for today's session, yes, to just portray some of the points that Mr. Femi and Irene also made reference to earlier on. Digital inclusivity has brought about no excuses. So like we see in this Ikorodu boys case, using daily, everyday items to carry out these projects shows that there really isn't no restriction, there isn't really no limitations. The limitations is your mind. How innovative can you be? And we see them using low-cost budgets to do so amazing things. And Irene also stated earlier on that it breaks every barrier. The ground is neutral for everybody, so there's no middle, high class. No, the ground is level for everybody. And I'll be going forward with today's session and asking Madam Irene our next set of questions for her. So Irene, how does media, you've been speaking about of course, you're a journalist. So how does media, especially financial media literacy, empower young individuals to initiate and sustain businesses that are aligned with environmental and social goals? You've given us some insights as to what the Linda Network does and how you are distinguished from other media houses. So how does media how can it initiate this and cause people to think about sustainable businesses that align with environmental and social goals? Over to you, Irene. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for that question. Really, not everybody is very familiar with the concept of climate finance, which is basically finance that is coming into, or sustainable finance, anyone you want to call it, which is basically finance that is really targeted at just projects that are going to be more, that would benefit the society, that will benefit the environment better. I don't want to go too technical into climate finance, carbon credits and the likes, but let me just touch on them just a little bit. Prior to now, a lot of the businesses that we celebrate today, either locally or internationally, quite a lot of their success was hinged on practices that were not totally environmentally friendly. We see oil companies, for example, while they extracted oil from the ground in areas like, say, Port Harcourt, look at the menace it costs to the environment. But now, investors are saying, or certain investors and even banks in Nigeria, at least I know of, I think maybe Access Bank, that one I've read their report, so I can speak for that at that bit. Some of these financial institutions are now saying, hey, young guys, you are running businesses, but we want to also see how, and I know you want to make profits, I know you are going to employ people, but we also want to see how responsible your practices, your business practices will be, such that while you are making profits, you are also protecting the environment. If, for example, you are a carpenter and you say, oh, you produce this number of chairs, how many tree planting exercises are you also doing by the side to ensure that while somebody somewhere is cutting down trees, logging down trees as materials for your business, you are also responsible enough to ensure that your organization or your company, no matter how small it is, plants 1,000 trees. Perhaps when you plant 1,000 trees, we don't expect that the entire 1,000 will grow, but let's say about 500 or 700 of them, which for us is a good idea, and so for that reason, what we have is what investors are then saying to businesses: can you be sustainable? Can you be responsible in your business practice? How can we get this done? While you are making profits, while we may say, oh, it's equity financing, you give us a certain percentage of your company, we also want to see that the society is better, right? If you say you want to start doing Zobo or making Zobo, what kind of packaging are you using? Would it contribute to the already existing terrible situation of plastic bottles in the community or the society? Or would you say, oh, there's a collecting mechanism that your company has done or initiated where people that people that produce, people that you sell to, return these empty bottles to you, and then you recycle or you give it to a recycling company to make use of it for something else. Like the company that the guys that I mentioned to you that build toilets with plastic bottles. By the way, that's even a very good bulletproof. You know that it's very difficult for bullets to pass through walls that are built with plastic and sand. Yes, not jokes, you know. So you can imagine how you're also protecting these students. Perhaps you want to say, oh, you want to start doing that in the northern part of Nigeria with all these guys that are always just hopping into schools and shooting everywhere sporadically. Maybe we should start building these schools with some more plastic bottles. So you can imagine when there's a legislative document or whatever that says, oh, let's start building maybe the walls of secondary schools with not just bare bricks, but with plastics, right? And sand put in them. At least before these guys will even break into that wall, maybe some form of help would have come. Right. So these are some initiatives that we want to see that will really even encourage investors come in and support young businesses. So if you're a business owner here and you're really looking out for ideas that you can initiate, if you already have that concept, of course, we can even have a conversation after now. If you need some form of guidance, I think I can support in any way that I can. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Linda. Irene, I'm calling you by your media house name. Thank you so much, Irene, for that answer. And like you said, the way you narrate the story is very important, and also amplifying these events. Like I'm in Nigeria, but I'm like keenly just hearing about the plastic bottle toilet projects by the youth, and it's so nice that Linda Network could cover that story up. So I think it's very important that when we have initiatives like this that are doing well, especially from Nigeria to the rest of the world, it's so nice. It would be so nice if our media houses can amplify these stories so people know this is what is happening. We're not just hearing about the negatives on media, but what we actually get to hear about some of these superb, innovative happenings that are taking place right before our eyes and in our time and our age. So we have only 3 minutes left. I'm going to be handing to Mr. Tosin, who's just going to be rounding up the session. Thank you so much, Mr. Tosin. Thank you, Mr. Femi and Irene. Mr. Tosin, have you been enjoying today's session?
Session. I know one thing I celebrate about today's session is the fact that our panelists were able to actually relate every of the questions to real life cases, scenarios, activities. They're not just talking about stories. They were sharing what has happened, what has worked, something that has gone well, and that is one of the big things I'll be taking out of this meeting today. Yeah, so I want to say a big thank you to you, Irene, and to Femi. So sorry about the glitch in the network and all of those things we experienced. So we are looking forward to AOT 5.0, and we are saying to all our audience all over the world that you can actually register for this event. We are looking forward to having you. We want to have you around. We want to see what we can do together through collaboration. We want to see what you can offer. We want to see the networking that can go out during the program and even before the program to see how we can actually harness the opportunities that abound in the creative industry. I want to say thank you very much to our audience. Thank you to you, Antonia. Antonia is a programs officer for Eco Institute of Technology, and I am the programs and learning manager for Eco Innovation Center. It's so nice to have everybody on this call. And for this note, and because we are so time conscious, because that is one of those things that we are so big on, we want to say thank you and goodbye. Thank you very much, our panelists. It's so nice having you today. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good to meet you and work with you, Antonia and Tosin. Bye, everyone.
Irene. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.